What the heck is a quad lock?
Watch this to find out. Whether you're in the car, on the bike, on the water, in the air, your phone is an important tool. Keep it secure with quad lock.
That's why they say the undercut's powerful, because someone would pit and then the next guy would have a shocking pit stop and like, oh, that worked really
Yeah, so it looks like an undercut if you don't actually watch the pit stop. After practice, that really surprised me. They turned that thing around.
They looked really shit in practice.
They did.
Oh no! He's in the fence! The boat's in the fence! They're all in the fence! Oh, unbelievable!
Sound check.
Sound check.
Does taste different. Sound different, the soft drink, doesn't it?
Cheers. Yeah.
Cheers, mate. Cheers.
Doesn't sound as fun, does it?
No, it does. You don't need the help mate, to be dancing behind the bar. I've seen you sober dancing in a bar.
I'm much better when I'm a bit looser in the hips, though.
I don't move on a dance floor without the Dutch courage, but I don't have the move.
Boy, do you get going after a few.
Yeah, mate. 56. We're up to. This is the Perth debrief for the Supercars. So it was a pretty good weekend. Pretty exciting racing, I thought. 3 races. But before we get into it, if you haven't already, hit subscribe. Yes. Tap like on the, give us a thumbs up if you can, and comment below if you got any thoughts straight up about the event. One of the things we'll get to today is one of our favourites for Who Remembered, Who Forgot. I've struggled a little bit with this one, so I'm still thinking about one of them. I can't decide yet who, not because there's heaps. I just think there was quite a few good performers that were at Tassie and at Perth, so hard to think of who really forgot. There was plenty of good stuff, though, that happened on the weekend. One of my favourite moments was the Mini doing a front flip in the gravel trap. Never seen that before. Probably one of the highlights. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. Probably a low light for the bloke driving the Mini, but yeah, unfortunate for him, but it was spectacular. And weird to see him flip forwards.
And it wasn't even that aggressive. It just went in smooth, flipped up on its roof.
Yeah, and then when they dropped it back down, it shattered the windscreen, so...
Oh, did it really? I didn't see that.
Yeah, because eventually you got to just drop it right. You got to get it down.
Yeah, and there's I think they're only on rubbers. They don't actually have coiled suspension or anything either. They're on bump rubbers unless they change it for the race cars.
No,
those Minis are only on bump rubbers.
I'm not sure. Maybe
that landing would have been.
It didn't have a lot of. It sort of went and then just cracked the windscreen. And then I think Chad was coming. He's going, "Oh, it's cracked the windscreen." I was like, "Oh," as if there's not already enough down.
Yeah, I'd be devastated. And then Morris turned up to race the Super Utes, and did he cause some trouble?
The dirty, dangerous dude was back in action.
He does have the saying of if you go to the outside, you make your own arrangements, and he did the little unwind, perfect apex denial. But I did like we clipped it on our socials. The driver of
Rossi Johnson, and he gave his character reference of what he thought at the time, and unfortunately, broadcast weren't quick enough on the mute button, and he let a few choice words go, but.
I'm all for that, though.
We've all been there. It's passion.
100%. And we posted it, and the guy, Rossi Johnson does follow what we put out.
He messaged me before, actually.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
And so I think it's great. See a bit of emotion. I mean, it means a lot to all of us.
Yeah.
So I think that, he's fucked his car.
Especially in support land. I know it's passionate in all levels, but in support land, there's a lot of financial stress to go racing.
Yep.
It's really hard to get commercial partners to cover all your racing. So, yeah, I mean, it's a shit thing when you have, unfortunately, things like that happen for Rossi, and he was having quite a good weekend too. So, fingers crossed they can get his ute back on track for Townsville for him, and he can bounce back from that. But good to see the passion, good to see the emotion. A little bit disappointed that he felt like he had to apologise, because I was like, fuck that.
He did he?
Well, I just saw in one of the articles written he apologised for his words, but fuck that dude. Someone's just put me in the fence. I'm saying the same things you said, if not more some. So say what you feel.
Yeah, and I think it's great. Morris turned up and did that race, and he's doing the next event as well, I think. But
he's doing all year, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Has he been doing it?
He's been doing all year, yeah.
Oh, there you go. I didn't know that.
Scotty Taylor Motorsport running 2-ute program. Morris is in one, Scotty's in the other.
Well, there you go. Never mind. Forget my next point because it's null and void now. I don't know what I'm talking about.
That's okay.
Shout out as well, SVG, top 20 at Michigan. So second week in a row.
Yes.
He's 18th, I think he finished, which is good. He's starting to... Seems like make some inroads on the ovals, so hopefully it's on the up. Definitely not been easy.
No, it goes to show you how hard, that's their bread and butter, how hard it is. And obviously, Trackhouse look like they're starting to find a bit more pace now, which is good, and I think that's what's helping his results.
Yeah.
Because you can't flog a dead horse. But all three of them seem to be chipping away now. Ross has had a win and a couple of good results. Daniel's there, Shane's there.
Yeah.
So it's good.
And he texted us just after qualifying and said that his minimum speed was 307, and he was flat the whole way and just was buzzing. Obviously in the message you could tell he was pretty fucking I mean, that's pretty wide-eyed and wide open.
Like we talk about if you just touch 300 at Bathurst for like a second, you're like, yes. And then like the whole lap just...
Yep. Actually, before I forget, I do want to say as well, Brock Feeney, he watches the pod. I don't know if he watches every episode, but he does watch it. And he waited until Sunday night at dinner to come up and go, I'm trying to think of his exact words, but it was, at least Elliot can pick him. And I was
Usually
like,
I
was like, oh my God. And he's like, yeah, don't worry. I heard you didn't pick me. You said Will was going to get me this weekend. And he's like, you can tell Elliot that.
There's method to my madness, Brock.
I said, you know how to pick him. So anyway, I did get that wrong. And I actually just checked, going into the next event is Darwin. So I was looking at everyone's results just so that we can
Had a bit of a cheat.
Well, he fucking clean swept last year. So I actually texted him because I was like, oh, maybe next one. And then I looked and he won both races. So I actually texted him and just said, oh, for fuck's sake, you clean swept last year as well. So it's likely it's going to be a challenge again for Will to get one up.
That was where he broke the Mr. Sunday thing, wasn't it? Because I think up until then it had only been Sundays. And then Darwin, was it where he got the Saturday?
Might have been.
Sunday? Yeah,
I actually didn't remember him getting the double there. So, I was just looking at the results to see typically who goes well there for the next event. And I saw so I did text him. I was just like, for God's sake.
So you're going to pick him now?
Yeah. Now I'm like, I don't really want to. After he said that, I want him to. I mean, I saw him putting the stickers on the door sill. He's got like, I think he's 4 from the last 6 race wins, 5 poles.
He's 5 or 6 poles, isn't
he? So I'm like, you've had enough, mate. Does need help putting the stickers on though. They were definitely all crooked all over the place.
On the piss with that.
Even the crew were like, Jesus, we need to replace these stickers for him. But. Anyway, if you can tell, of course, I'm biased. I wanted Will to get one up on Brock. It didn't happen. He was too fast on the weekend. We do have as well a little giveaway. What do we got behind the bar there, Barbs? You brought this in today.
We do. So thank you to our partners in Jans and Shure Microphones. So Speedway Insider in New Zealand, you probably saw a bit of banter back and forth. They were questioning the legitimacy. Did I say that right?
We did this last time. Legitimacy.
I told you I had brain fog today. They didn't think our sound checks were real, and we said, well, it's all got to do with our great technique and mic. So Jan said, hey, we're going to send you a mic to send to them with a couple of beers. So we'll send you this and a couple of Reckless beers over with a DIY kit on how to do a sound check. And then you'll know that it is all legit. So that's going to get sent to you. So we'll DM you and we'll send this off to you. So thanks to Jans and Shaw.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny they sent that in today because I think they realise it's more than likely the microphone quality is the separator here.
Well, I felt for them too because we've got quite a few Kiwi fans of the show.
Yep.
And they were starting going, oh, I'm ashamed to be Kiwi if these guys are questioning and stuff. So I actually felt bad for them. So
and they said they were drinking Spates, which turns out no one likes Spates in the comment section.
Which, yeah, I don't mind a Spates when I go over there. Anyway, obviously I need to pick another Kiwi beer, but it's all in good fun. So we're going to send you a Shure mic so you can sound as crisp as we do when you open a cold one.
The other thing was our predictions, not just on you guessing that Brock would beat Will. I picked Woody to get his first win. One of the questions from the fans was who will be the next first-time winner.
You were on.
And, yeah, I thought Woody wasn't a fast stretch for a guess because last year he was fast there and typically wherever you're quick last time, you're going to be fast again just because that's the nature of the game with these cars.
I put the mocker on Randall with that, didn't I? He had a bit of a Barry Crocker.
Oh, you did. Yeah, you did.
I thought that because it was between...
He might even be my who forgot.
It was between Woody, Golding or Randall was the option. You obviously picked Ryan Wood for the first win. I went Randall, and then Golding was looking likely to be, because he was running in podium contention for a little while, and I was like, oh, I've really picked the wrong one this time.
But you did pick JC for the podium. So
and that's a big get, guys. Come on, can we give it up?
I thought that was huge. That was pure luck. Like you did not, you were like, you seemed confident there was strategy in your madness, but I wasn't completely.
You know what it was, though? It was obviously I was just throwing darts in the dark, but JC has had a podium there at Tickford, plus BRT have WRU support, and we knew that, we assumed that WRU were going to be strong.
Yes.
So I thought this is probably the best round where they're going to have car speed.
Yeah.
And JC's got form there in the past, and I thought, you know what?
It's worth a shot.
And it's funny because Tim Blanchard texted me on the Sunday because I was texting with like 3 to go going, let's fucking go, you beauty. And he texted me, I said, I called that on the show. He goes, I must have missed that bit.
Yeah, right. Oh, well, there you go, Timmy. You missed it, but he did do it.
So, funny.
I was I was pretty surprised by the end of that race. The safety car is an interesting one to talk about, which we will get to, but we don't typically get our predictions right. I'll be honest. Like usually
You're a lot better than I am.
I'm kind of close. You just pick your favourites every time. It doesn't matter if it's a road course or an oval. Denny Hamlin, we know you're going to pick him for NASCAR.
He won.
He did. Eventually, if you just keep saying the same person, it's always at the front. They will get a win. And then who are your others? There's always the same three. At IndyCar, Formula One's always
Scotty Mac,
It's Scotty Mac, Oscar,
and Hamlin.
Yeah. So eventually, you'll get that right if you just keep saying the same. They will win a race.
Three pretty good picks, though, most of the time.
They are. They do 38 races. Hamlin will win one.
He's won 3 this year.
Yeah, true. That was. Yeah, our predictions were bang on. A couple of people actually sent me some receipts saying that they'd won on betting, picking based on our tips.
Well, actually, that's what Tim said to me. He goes, you should have put 10 on it, mate, because the odds would have been huge.
Oh, actually would have been.
And I said, I didn't think of that. But
Courtney was paying $41 for a podium bootleg champagne pub.
I honestly noticed, I thought it would have been more.
Yeah.
So obviously they listened to our show and they thought Barb's was onto something.
Yeah, the bookies are definitely, they adjusted the odds.
Sportsbet have been listening.
Sportsbet adjusted the odds after you said that. If you are wondering too, who we refer to when we see some of the comments and we mention a name, we're live streaming on Patreon. So if you'd like to be part of the conversation, we love seeing the comments come in and we keep an eye on. We've both got our laptops up here, reading the comments. We've also got fan memos tonight. So some voice recordings people sent us across the weekend, which we'll play. Great. But we love live streaming. Particularly after the supercar events, obviously our listeners are very engaged with supercars, so often more educated than us. If there's something we don't know, someone in the comments usually has the answer.
Not often, all the time.
Yeah, it's quite often. If you do want to join our Patreon and jump in the chat, and even if you just want to call us dickheads, go for it.
That's cool too.
Elliot's the one with the glass jaw.
That's true. I get very upset easily.
What do you reckon? Should we get into the qualifying and races, mate? And then we'll go across teams and Drivers' Championship at the end of that as well, and some of our key points. But if you want to touch off with quali.
Cool. So for qualifying for race 1 at Perth on the weekend, it was looking a little bit early in the weekend, mate. I thought, is it a Ford Cup this weekend? Just initially, I thought out the gate. So we had Chaz was pole. So I had actually said I thought it was going to be a bounce back weekend for Chaz, and there were parts there where I thought I'm on again. I'm going to pick them all this weekend. So he was pole.
Actually, you text that group early too, saying like, I'm fucking on here.
Yep. Ryan Wood was second. So Scotty said he was going to be strong. WAU were obviously strong with that front row lockout. So that was big for them. Brody Kostecki in third. I thought,
after practice, that really surprised me. They turned that thing around because they were I think they were outside the top 20, both cars.
They looked really shit in prac.
They did. And third. Amazing.
And then, so that was, and I thought, okay, they've found something, they've turned it on. This is going to be a good weekend for them. Brock Feeney fourth. Matthew Payne was in fifth. Will Brown sixth. So a little bit, that sounds harsh at fourth and sixth, but a little bit uncharacteristic for Triple Eight to be that far down. Given the history.
100%, yeah. I think that is.
And look, it's tight. So, back to six was actually 2.5 tenths. So that's actually quite a gap.
I think that is quite a gap.
That's quite a gap around Perth. But in some of the other quals, we'll give the gaps. And I was like half a tenth to fourth in one of them on one of the days. Might have been Sunday.
The thing that surprised me there between Brock and Will is actually Will is 0.13 behind Brock, which from fourth to sixth, that's a big gap.
Big gap.
So, I think that surprised me a little bit. Matty Payne split them.
Yeah, Cam Waters in seventh. Kai Allen, good job for the rookie Kai in eighth. And ninth was Bryce Forward, and then 10 was James Going. So Bryce has really stepped up last couple of rounds as the BJR sort of leader for speed, which is great. And as I say, Kai Allen, the rookie,
Biggie.
He had a couple of good qual sessions there, which was good to see. So,
sorry, that was my dog's fucking firing through the cameras, pulling
shit going on every.
The last time we had him tied up, he kept barking, so I thought I'll run him off the lead tonight, and he keeps fucking running under the tripod through the cables, and I'm stressing out here that we're going to lose a camera. Sorry, go on, Bubs.
So that was top 10. That's all we need to go through for top 10.
I think Kai Allen was a good one to just quickly mention again, though, because the Saturday qualifying was great for him. And not to jump ahead, I won't give away all the results, but to back it up in the second qualifying as well was fantastic. So I think that was, where did he qualify in that second one? Kai Allen was seventh. So 8th and 7th for the first day for both races. So I think that was really good to see.
Yeah, Brycey Forward, as I touched on,
Bryce
sort of been leading. Him and Jackson have really been leading BJ the last 2 rounds, Tassie and here. And even Macaulay's.
Actually, Macaulay could be my who forgot for the weekend because he was really up the front with Bryce at Tasmania.
Andre, touching on BJR, struggled for the second round in a row, which is very unlike Andre. Normally he maximises what he's got, I think. Yep. So that's a little bit strange for the 8 car.
We want to give a quick shout out to our partners that make this possible. Start with East Coast Car Rentals. If you're in the market for a rental car, AHU 15 for 15% off already fantastically priced hire cars. Trico wiper blades. Barbs, if you're in the market for wiper blades, what are you going to buy?
Tricos.
If you
Absolutely.
And if you don't want to rent a car, you want to buy one, Lancaster Motor Group.
That's right. And if you go in and you mention Apex Hunters, you get a free wheel alignment. When's that till, Scotty?
End of June, I believe it is this year. So if you get in and mention Apex Hunters, you don't mention our name specifically because
I won't know who you're talking about. But if you are one to hit the gutters, or your missus likes to hit the gutters in your car, mine is guilty of that too. Take it in, they'll give you a free wheel alignment, job done.
all the links to these websites will be in the description of this video. Quadlock, the link there if you're after any phone mounts, adapters, or a cover. You need a case for your phone. Action cam mounts as well. We smashed those that we used them flat out at the Adelaide Motorsport Festival. Any of the vision
They're
that was
awesome
captured
too.
there
It's
was
so quick to just change them.
Well, that was the thing that I didn't realise. Yeah, you don't need to undo your GoPro mount anymore. They've got their own connector, so that's very fast. But if you can, support the partners that keep us alive. If you'd love to watch our podcast live, like some of our Patreon members, go over there and sub. Back to the show.
You thought Cam Hill would be a smoky, and he kind of didn't fire a shot as what we would have thought.
Yeah, and I thought that because across different natures of circuits, he had been good. So, like, you can almost say who will be good going into the next event based on last year's performance because it just doesn't change. Like, we know Team 18 is
They're
going
in
to
the
be
same
fast.
team, same car.
They'll be fast at Darwin, but I thought Cameron Hill had done a good job to go well at Sydney Motorsport Park. He did all right, but then he was quick at, obviously, the Grand Prix, got the win. Backed it up at Taupo. It was okay at Tasmania. I thought, well, they're very different circuits. So I was a little surprised that he wasn't that competitive. So they would have been, I mean, he had bad luck. The car didn't start on Sunday, but I think he had a flat battery. But whether that was an alternating issue or whatever, I'm not sure.
Yeah, really felt for because
And he qualified all right in that one.
That was his one, but that was a chance where he was going to probably jag a reasonable result. And because he's in that bubble too of the 10, I thought, oh, how's that going to affect him? But luckily, some other stuff went down that it actually didn't affect him as bad as what it could have. So that was a bit of a saving grace, but felt for Hill in that. And Richie was P24 in that quali, which was, again, I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah. And Larko, I love him, but his interview with Richie after the race I thought was terrible. The way he, Richie's obviously qualified 24th, he's going to be disappointed. And I think this is where the reporters, pit lane reporters, need to get a little bit grittier and ask some real questions. He went down there and really just talked to Richie about how great the morale must be in this team and it must be exciting to see the investment the team's making and everything. And it was sort of the first glimpse of what the rest of the weekend looked like when I watched the commentators about it's very much like it's always pat on the back and it's always fluff pieces. I think it would have been interesting then to try and find out a little bit more or go and speak to someone else within the team, find out what's happening. Why are we still P24? And Golding was inconsistent across the weekend. I think that's probably where Richie would be going, okay, I need to take some responsibility for the weekend because Golding was so quick in the races.
Yeah.
But I do reckon we need to start asking some better or real questions. Find out a little bit more about what are you struggling with?
Well, just being real, because like Pete Zibris has put a shitload of money in there. He's got two guys that everyone says are young and fast, which I totally agree with.
Yeah.
I think they're two fast chargers that shouldn't be qualifying 24th.
Yep.
On talent.
Even if you just ask, what is it in the car that you're struggling with right now?
Yeah.
And it might just give the listener a bit of insight. It could be late turn, could be a little bit of braking stability, could be anything.
Yeah.
But just to, talk about the morale and how good it is when a guy is feeling down at the time. But also, I mean, you're trying to learn something when you're at home. I don't think you should be afraid to ask a tough question sometimes in those moments. But I was pretty gutted for Richie, but Golding, I felt like had a quick car on the weekend, so he'll look back at everything Golding did, I'm sure, and try and fix it. But it was tough, and I think when you're down on confidence anyway, it's always difficult, especially when the field spread's not huge. It doesn't take much to doubt yourself, and then you lose a little bit of time, make a little mistake, and you qualify nowhere. So.
And it's such a competitive field, which we'll touch on later. But as you can see across the different results, like especially there, you say it's a short lap, so it takes the smallest of mistakes to make such a big difference.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
Race results, mate. You want to dive into those bad boys?
Yeah, Woody. There you go. I picked it. That's why he did it. He got the win. Thank you, Woody, for not proving me wrong there. I think it was a long time coming. Last year, I was probably one of the ones that was really critical on him because we had seen in Super 2 his raw speed. I was surprised there was a few times where, like Sydney Motorsport Park last year, he was P1 in practice, then qualified 16th. So it was like you knew it was there. And the stuff we talked about was always trying to put your lap together. And qualifying in supercars cannot be underestimated how hard it is. everyone's doing such a good job. We saw Lockie Dalton quick in practice. But when it comes down to turning the wick up a little bit and finding that extra tenth, it's really hard and you could very easily lose 3 tenths, which is what we sort of saw a lot with him last year. But then this year it was a no-brainer to pick him to be the next one to win their first race. And, he did a great job. He was fast and, he started this race second, but did it on speed, past Chaz. I really do see Woody becoming the team leader there because consistency-wise anyway, I feel like he's improving every time he goes out, and that is something that's hard as, for Chaz, who's always been the top dog in that team, to out-qualify him but then get beaten on raw speed in this race would be a tough pill to swallow. And then for Woody to go and back it up and get pole the next one was good. So, great to see Woody win. Will came through for second, which I'm sure even he was probably surprised about.
4 posies, yeah.
Good recovery there. Chaz finished up third, Brock Feeney fourth, Brody Kostecki fifth, which is a great turnaround for those guys at DJR. That result I thought was good. Matty Payne and Cam Waters. I didn't think that Matty Payne and Cam had great race pace in this one. They seemed to drop back, and it was great to see Bryce Ford finish top 10. He's in 8th. Cameron Hill did actually get a good result in this one in P9.
9th, yep.
Randall, I think, Cam in this one was 7th, but Randall all weekend was quite a long way off his teammate. So that was a tough weekend for him. And then Kai, I think, is probably just a little bit of race experience and also some time in the stops for those guys across the weekend. But, he finished up 11th, so just dropped outside the top 10.
Yeah.
But no one really, I think in that race, there was no big surprises for me.
And it kind of was like that across the whole weekend, mate. There's, like as you said, it was hard to actually think who forgot because it wasn't really, there's sort of a trend that kind of just stayed the same. And
very similar results to Tasmania.
We haven't seen many changes across the 2 rounds.
No, and the who remembered who forgot is usually a very easy one because it's normally, like almost every event, there's a car that struggles, like a team that's, we go to Darwin, and I really think that Team 18 will be podium potential. I would say Walkinshaw would be my tip to struggle. I think they'll be probably out of the 10. But then there you go. You go, that's who forgot. You'd pick those drivers. But it's nothing to do with the drivers. It's just teams have tracks that have strengths and weaknesses. And I thought that Tasmania to Perth, there wasn't really anyone that was fast and then completely forgot the next weekend. So I don't know. I'm struggling with that one a little bit. But the racing still was. I thought the racing was brilliant, all 3 races. I thought everyone, on this day, drove pretty well and no one lost there. No one let the red mist descend in these 2.
They did not. So race 2 was the quali format with a shootout.
Yeah.
So Woody, boom.
Race 2 was not shootout, was it?
I'm just going race 2 quali here off the notes. We've got saved a set for the shootout with pace.
Oh, sorry, I called it shootout, but it was for the final top. Oh, no, it must have been. No, it was for the final top 10. I think he made it through that part of qualifying.
Oh, sorry, in the
with
knockout.
an extra set. So in the knockout one, Woody was so fast. He just, for that top 10 that advanced.
We put 2.5 tenths on second.
I think he was the only one that actually made it through to that part of the knockout and qualifying with a set of tyres. And he did a really good job. But the shootout was obviously on Sunday. But this one he gapped him, and I think that was just the advantage of being fast enough in quali part 2 to save a set of tyres. And I know that Brock Feeney said after the race he was not game to do it because they did it in Taupo and he qualified 21st. That's the problem in supercars with the field spread being so tight. Woody could have very easily looked like a clown, but luckily, this weekend he was fast enough to stay in the top 10. And when you're first, it's probably not as much a risk.
Yep.
But we did see that it can happen. Brock Feeney dropped right out of it and was nowhere at Taupo when he had a car quick enough to drive through the field. So it takes balls to do it.
What's your thought on the format that they've been doing with like the segments that drop away? I find it a little, just watching on TV at home, I find it a little bit messy. And I do feel like still you get some confusion creeping in sometimes with the comms that are coming, because I think they're the same. They're like, oh, hang on, we've got another section to go.
I just don't think it needs to change. I think it's unnecessary to keep changing format on the same weekend.
Yeah.
Have one, run it and done. You know what I mean? And it would be, I'm not anti either of the formats or all of them, but pick one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think we should do as many top 10 shootouts as we do.
I agree with that.
But I don't mind the knockout. The only thing with the knockout is it's not as bad in Gen 3 because the cars are a lot closer, but in the past, it just separated the haves and have-nots even more because the quick car can save tyres, get through to the final part of qualifying with greens like we saw with Woody, and then typically it actually just filters the fast and slow cars out.
Just takes longer to do it.
Exactly. So, I think you pick one quali format and everyone gets a set of greens. Even if it's one set, you're allowed one set for each part. You do one lap.
Actually, this is a great...
And that way it's pretty much a shootout for each. Like everyone goes out, just does one run.
Great.
And then,
Great point you make there. I think we've touched on it before, mate. I found it a little bit annoying on Sunday with the actual top 10 shootout. Not everyone had greens.
Yeah.
And I know we've talked about in the past, if you make the shootout, Dunlop should then roll down a set of tyres that you can mount for the shootout.
Yep.
So everyone is on a green.
Definitely.
And that way people can spend up their tyres in the other parts to get into quali. So you actually get a genuine right. What's it at? And
yeah.
So I just find that because I know
it's one of the smallest, one of the cheapest performance parts, really, and it's also the best. It translates the best for the fans on the couch. I think you want to just see everyone on the same tyre have a go.
Straight away, I think now off the top of my head, I don't think Cam Waters had greens for that shootout, and straight away I was like, oh damn,
yeah,
like I would have liked to see what Cam could do, and like. So you're right. I think sitting on the couch at home, I just want to, when the shootout comes on, I want to know everyone's on equal tyres and it's anyone in the 10's chance to put it on pole.
Yeah, yep. And that is definitely on the couch one of the things they need to probably tune up. Going back to the quality, though, I was pretty surprised and pleasantly surprised to see Randall bounce back to be fifth in that one. I thought that was, really, that's where you got to be, and that's, you're in contention then, and then all day you tend to stay there, don't you? Once you qualify up the front, everyone races like they've got something to lose, so they're a bit smarter at the front of the field. And if you can be close to your teammate, that's really where your team's championship point starts to take care of itself. When you got one guy at the front, it's like the Verstappen thing.
Yeah.
One guy can't win the championship. So, P5 was awesome, and Brody hung in there as well, which was really good for qualified sixth. But Davo was slightly better in this one. He qualified P12.
Yep.
But it was a tough weekend. I think the gap between those two qualies was quite a bit between them, like 15th and 12th for those two races was probably not ideal. I think that's something Davo's not going to be stoked about. And the pressure, I think Brody did well on Saturday to try and relieve some of the tension on the team, but there's definitely a lot of pressure turning up on that team because, and I talked about it with a few people. It's like, what in today's day and age with the cars that we have, with the lack of development, it's not like you can go and design new uprights to fix turn, or if you've got a weakness in the car, you're not out there redesigning components and fixing the problem. You've kind of got what you've got. You put your setup in and you go car racing. I think that when everyone left Erebus and went into DJR, there was this expectation that they would implement all these plug and play, and they'd be right at the front. It's gone far enough in the championship now where we're 5 rounds in. And it's hard because, we love Tom, great mate of ours, but the pressure is on that team because they've got to start getting results. But what do you do now? What do you do differently in Darwin that you're not already doing because you're not going back to the drawing board and starting again? But
that's the thing is that they would have tried everything in their toolbox. It's now at the point where it's like, well, is it a philosophy change? Like a setup philosophy change? But then that takes time.
It also takes away from you've got all these new people.
Yeah.
To fix what needed fixing, and then those new people are going to have to come up with a new philosophy. If that is the answer, then it's a huge staff change that didn't answer the problem in the first place, if that makes sense. Because really, you should have just done a philosophy change with the old crew. So it is like there's something there that they're missing with the cars, and it might be something other Ford teams have cracked, but the only thing I'd say is I don't see other Ford teams doing it every weekend. I don't see other Chev teams doing it. 888 consistently do, but others fluctuate a lot. Like you go back to, I don't know, Taupo, I guess. Well, Walkinshaw was still strong.
Groves is probably a good point that you're making there too. Like even though they've had some strong rounds, they have fluctuated a little bit.
Yeah.
So, they've struggled to hit that sweet spot every race.
Yeah.
They'll generally on a weekend get it back in the window.
And it might be hurting DJR more at the moment because teams like Walkinshaw have had, and Penrite, Groves, have had 3 strong events from the 5. So they're on a bit of a run at the moment where maybe DJR feel like they're on the back foot as a Ford team. But yeah, it's hard, and it's hard whenever you talk about any team or driver in this way because you don't want to just be doom and gloom. But this is where I'd love a reporter to come into the garage and maybe ask one of the team owners or the crew chief engineer, what do you do from here? Because this hasn't worked. At the moment, it really hasn't. I thought we picked them, I think, round 2 for their first win, we would have thought.
I had them early, yeah.
Because you aren't redesigning parts. You don't have to wait for CAD designs to be completed and manufacturing to be completed to implement the changes. Like, I thought it was
Well, and that's showing faith that, we had in the people they've got, as in drivers, mechanics, engineers, everything. You think, they should hit the ground running effectively, but as you say, it's not plug and play. But you're right.
It's tricky.
Yeah, and they obviously don't know, otherwise they would have fixed it.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy question to answer.
Yeah. Hunters, I just want to take a moment to thank one of our fantastic supporters, Shaw and Partners Financial Services. Shaw and Partners are a leading national investment advice and wealth management firm. They act for and on behalf of individuals, institutions, corporates, charities, and family offices. So, if you're looking for advice or assistance with investments or strategies, look no further than Shaw and Partners Financial Services. With a 35-year history and 8 offices strategically placed all over Australia, their financial advisors are within reach and ready to provide tailored solutions and advice. For more information, follow the link in the description of this podcast. Back to the show.
Race results, mate.
Yeah, for race 2. So Feeney turned up, got the win and beat Will. So
He did too.
I love how he didn't mention anything to me after that race. He did wait till he did the next one the next day. Brock held on to that one just to prove a point to me that I don't know what I'm talking about. But Chaz, so it was Feeney, Will Brown, Chaz Mostert for third. And Chaz did really well, I think, in this one. I don't think, where did he qualify in this one?
Well, he's 8 up, he was out of the 10.
Yeah, so 11th in this one. This was the one where really I think we saw Chaz's race pace, but this is also where we see Chaz probably come away from the weekend and feel like he let the team down, because I think, and that's a pretty harsh driver assessment, but the cars seemed really fast on the weekend, and to qualify out of the 10 twice, so 2 out of 3 races, he didn't qualify in the top 10 and clearly had probably the second fastest car, or arguably first or second car for the weekend, but the race pace showed that the car was fast and he moved forward, so it's pretty cool to see him come through and get third.
Yeah, and this was a race, you may remember, Ryan Wood actually had passed Chaz, was leading quite convincingly, and then he had the left rear let go. So really felt for Ryan in that situation, because he looked well in control. He looked really fast. To me, just watching it, looked like he was doing it easy. And if he didn't have a pit stop issue or something go wrong, which obviously did, I thought he was going to win that. So that was a bit disappointing for Woody, because that would have been an amazing day for him. His first 2 wins back to back, which it did look like that was going to happen at 8 points.
It did, and you never want to say and I know even Woody was great. He's like, I would have won it. And he's like, I don't mean to sound cocky, but he had every right to say that, because really he was in the box seat and it was going to be something like an unlucky safety car that would have prevented it. I really think they were in that race. He was gone.
Yeah, I agree.
Past Waters, sorry. Yeah, that was bootleg champagne puppy. It was Waters he passed.
Past Waters, sorry. Yeah. But I also found it interesting in that race that they were braking left rear, so that Cooper Murray had a similar thing go wrong in his car. And I just
Someone had a right rear as well.
Yeah, okay. And then I just straight away went to that curb at turn 7, because they pound that. But then everyone on the comms was saying, there's nothing related. We don't know what's causing it. But straight away I would have gone to my head, well, the left rear cops are hiding off 5 and cops are hiding at 7.
So 5 was the big one that everyone thought was rattling it.
Right. Because that's like sawtooth and drops off a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's the first time that's happened there, and that curb hasn't changed. They haven't resurfaced it last year. This year they haven't reprofiled the curb. So
different tyre, a bit more grip, maybe a bit more load to that part.
Maybe, but it could also be though that the lifing of components, because we're still only, I don't know how old the uprights are, how long they last, but that's something that some teams overhaul and change components more regularly than others. And, we don't know how old that part was. I know that some teams in the lane just decided to completely change their uprights, just go brand new uprights again, just in case.
Yep.
Because often you don't even see the hairline crack. It could be under the paint and you don't even know. So some teams precautionally just...
Was the rod end? I saw a photo of the rod end that snapped, and that's just straight through the thread. So, yeah, you're not going to be able to see.
Well, no, his was on the weld, and it was because it was sleeved, and his was the weld that broke on...
Oh, was it? I saw it
because it stayed in there. And when Larko showed, that's what stayed in, they think, for a couple of laps, because he reported something was wrong in the back.
Right.
But then when it's obviously flexed, it's pulled straight out. But Prezzo's thrown in here as well. There was 2 different types of failures. So maybe the rod end was someone else's.
Must have been Cooper Murray's. Maybe I saw a picture of a sheared, and I thought, okay, well
that's one you'd never see coming.
Shit out of luck. He's just sheared the bolt. So
it is interesting. But Gen 3 now, we're into the 3rd year of the category. So whether some stuff needs to be lifed need to be a bit more aggressive on changing parts. Obviously, it adds a bit of cost, but
Felt for Woody though, because
yeah. Oh, 100%. But it's pure bad luck. Yeah.
like just the roller coaster emotions through that day though for him. Like get the win, didn't really get to celebrate because then they had the second race not long after, a couple of hours after, so didn't get the proper podium, didn't get to go home.
No, like Sunday night celebration.
Yeah, and then goes from doing a good job, leading again, looking good, and then bang, something goes wrong.
Yeah, and even on Sunday, really, getting caught up in a lot of different incidents and not getting the result. You go home, your last race of the weekend kind of dictates your mood for the next 2 weeks, even though you got the win on Saturday.
As good as your last race. It's always the way, isn't it?
Yeah. So unfortunately for Woody, I mean, he's still going to be pinching himself because that's a great thing to achieve. But disappointing that he didn't get to back it up, and he deserved to back that up. I was surprised in that race, Cam Waters' race pace was not amazing, and he finished up fourth. These were the races, though, that commentators kept talking about the undercut. The undercut wasn't as powerful as slow pit stops were. And that's the thing I was surprised they never kept saying, because they're like, when Waters got undercut, he came in a second in front and came out a second behind, but he lost 2 seconds in the pit stop. So it's not hard to find out where the time went. It wasn't the undercut. It was the 0.19 he lost in the pits compared to the Triple Eight cut. So that's
why they say the undercut's powerful, because someone would pit and then the next guy would have a shocking pit stop and like, oh, that worked really well.
So it looks like an undercut if you don't actually watch the pit stop. Maybe that was Larko counting. They thought it was closer than it was. But even the one for Chaz Moss that I heard them say on the radio, that they interviewed someone from the team and they said they did 3 tyres because what's the point in doing 4? The front right doesn't do any work. But really, I would say that's a lack of confidence from the team to trust their crew to do 4 tyres, which that, again, is like a brutal thing to say. But if you're confident in doing 4, you would do it, because it's clear that they did 7.5 seconds at both Triple Eight cars for 4 tyres, and it took them almost 2 seconds longer to do 3 on Chaz's. So if you're faster, you just do 4 and it's still faster. Like, I think it's down to the crew being able to execute the pit stop and be fast.
I'd always wondered why people thought 3 was quicker, because, you've got the...
Turn 4 is still...
You got 2 aside, right? So to me, it's like if you're doing 2 on one side, you should be able to get that done in the same time. But they were saying at the weekend, it's the right front's a little bit tricky because of where it's positioned with the boom and stuff.
And I guess maybe it might make you think you're mitigating some risk of a cross-threaded wheel nut or a slow, like you say, getting around the boom. Or so I get that.
And stuff, yeah. So,
but there's still... To say it doesn't do anything, I think that front right tyre still does a fair bit at turn 4 for rotation, and being able to then position the car correctly for 6 to take some load off the outside tyre, it makes a big difference.
Oh, I completely agree, because there's only a couple of passing spots at Perth in my mind, and one of them is into the bowl.
Yeah.
To get the run to do that, you need to get through 4 and 5 fast to be able to get the run. So you need that right front to hook in so you can then grab the throttle and get all the way down the bowl. So, yeah, I agree with you on that.
And the pit stops are hard. I don't think Sunday, I think Will had a slow pit stop. So I honestly would just love to see them separate fuel and tyres, and then any time someone has a mistake, like even Will's probably didn't hurt them as much as it should have when you make a mistake, because fuel is still involved on Sunday. But I think it's cool when we see the guys have to nail a pit stop, because they're as competitive as us. Like I think it's awesome that they get to contribute so much to the outcome of a result, because when you win, you see Penrite, when they got that result on Sunday, the crew was up and about, and so they should be. Like they're part of it. And I think that, separating fuel to tyres would be cool to see. And also then, last year, T8 said to me, like, they really put emphasis on their pit stops last year because it was the first time that minimum fuel drop was gone.
Yes.
And pit stops were going to be really critical. So before then, it was never really, like, fuel flow rate was always your focus for every team. Anyone, like, even winning the pit stop challenge was cool. But when more often than not, the fuel is what dictates the pit lane time, you don't really need to worry about the risk of cross-threading wheel nuts. You're normally doing them slow.
Take their time, be precise. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think... I think it would be cool to see that separated. John99 has actually said that Will's pit stop was compromised because he couldn't drive straight through Tickford's pit boom. Will actually said on the Sunday night that he didn't think that compromised him at all. He felt like he came in full throttle still and didn't lose time there. But that is definitely something that I think even for the crew could put them off a little bit, because you swing in late and their position is compromised a little bit. So it does definitely, you're not wrong. I think that even if Will didn't think he lost time, maybe the crew did. But Saturday, I felt like it wasn't so much the undercut. It was two teams had just slow pit stops. Because if you're slower doing 3 than 4, that's a problem.
To me, it did look, because I had, other than Larko counting down, they had the air jack timer, the air spike timer.
Which is sufficient.
Which I'd probably thinks maybe a little bit more accurate than Larko, just giving us the countdown. But it was wildly different. Even in teams I thought that were doing the same strategy with how many tyres they were changing, there was in some teams up to 2 second difference, which at this level to me seems a lot because as a percentage on a 6 second stop, it's a lot.
Yeah,
25% difference, something like that.
Even the amount the guys, I love watching. I'm always fascinated by the stops and watching the wheel nuts come undone. It's interesting what the guys torque the wheels to because you see some and they take a little bit longer to undo. So that's always, I think that's where you can lose a lot of time as well.
Yep.
But yeah, I reckon the pit stops are one of the coolest things, and maybe there was some undercut in there, but definitely for Cam, the slow stop, the 2 seconds he lost there is huge.
And it doesn't have to just be obviously the guys on the guns or on the spike or the fuel. If the driver misses their mark and it takes half a second to recorrect on a gun or move a tyre further, then obviously that plays a part to it as well. And we saw a couple overshoot. We saw one.
Anton was really long one point and he didn't even skid. He just rolled past the.
Anton was about a tyre past, it looked like. One of the fuel guys had it in but actually didn't drop any fuel in on the Saturday race 2, I think it was.
Groves.
Yeah, you could see.
5 seconds, eh?
Yeah, I was watching. I'm like, it's actually not taking any fuel at all. So a few things that, which is good with the jugs that they're now using.
Yeah.
Things like that throw a bit of a spanner in the works. But yeah, I completely agree with you. I would love to see just tyres only.
Yeah.
And just haul ass, boys. Just do what you can.
Yeah.
And let's see, like NASCAR do it.
Even then the plug-in.
Yeah.
Like it even puts emphasis on the fuel still. Everything is important then.
It's
Nothing's
just fuel.
Covering the other.
It's isolating the roles. So then all eyes adds the pressure. All eyes are on just the fuel guy or the tyres.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really cool.
And even increasing the stop then if it's 12 or 14 seconds for a stop, doesn't really matter. You know, instead of 7.5, you might end up with, say, 15 if you doubled it or whatever. But I think it's cool to split them. And then you've got as well teams that have to run the risk of lap down.
Yep.
You know, like it changes a lot. But anyway, I think it's cool. And I speak to Dan from Triple Eight quite a bit. It's funny because he's the fueler for Triple Eight. And I just, it's cool to see how, not anxious because everyone in the lane is quite confident because they've practiced so many times, but he did the first one and I was like, all good. And he's like, yep, 3 to go.
Well, that
like it's very much like
new coupling seems,
but he's like stressed is what I was going to say. Sorry, like he just gets one done. He's like, yep, job's not done. Like I still got to try and nail 3 more.
I can see with the new coupling on the Gen 3 cars, it looks so much harder than the old one.
Yeah,
like you can see if it's not
it's high too. I think
if it's not perfect though, it just won't vent and won't pump the fuel in.
Yeah,
like it to me it just seems. So I could see how the fuel guys and girls are real stressed on that because it's like has to be just perfect.
Like you see him do the last one and you can just see his face like, oh, thank God.
He's like, I'm done.
Yeah, like we got through.
I need to sleep.
He even said, I can't wait for Enduros when we're back to the old fuel rig. Like, it's just such a relief. But that's cool for the fans because they know it's not easy. You want to be able to appreciate that it's not easy for everyone. Like when we, some people might make it look easy, but no, they're all stressed out about it and it can go wrong very easily.
And that's where a driver, if they do miss their mark and they have to adjust their position and it kicks them off a bees, then, so it makes all that stuff hard. So very cool. The pit stop stuff's cool and they need to do whatever they can to make it harder again.
Yeah. Into race 2, just finishing that, Ford's really, it was 4 Chevs in the top 10, but they're separated by position 3 to 7 were all Fords. Yeah. Chaz Mostert, Cam Waters, Matty Payne, Thomas Randall and Brodie. So, again, the 2 Red Bull cars were quite fast in that race and they finished 1-2.
Yep.
But honourable mention again to MSR because they were the second best Chev team with Nick Percat.
Yes.
And then Team 18 with Anton in 9th.
Yep.
So it was looking like a decent weekend for Team 18 until race 3 they had issues with Anton's car, which was a shame because Dave and Anton had glimpses across the whole weekend of being quite fast.
Yeah, no, totally agree.
Where was Dave-O in that one?
Davo
finished up. He was 10th in that one.
There you go.
So two Fords Shell cars in the top 10. So, as you deep dive, it's not all... There's signs of promise. It's just
not consistent enough.
Yeah, and I think it was the gap. Like I think he said it was like 45 seconds to the lead.
And they're just scraping in. They're not 4th and 5th. They're 9th, 10th.
Yeah.
They're just scraping into the 10. So
and they're arguably full of the best people in the lane. You know what I mean? Like
they're not without anything. That's for sure.
So that's probably why their standard and what everyone's expectation of that team is so high.
Yep.
Race 3 qualifying, Feeney shootout lap. That was probably the most impressive thing for me. I was watching the Have I missed anything in the race, sorry?
No, mate, you're good. I was just zooming so I could see it.
The first note I put down was the shootout lap from Brock. So I was watching the live telemetry in the pit lane, and his decel into turn one, like he was so impressively deep, and the way he's sort of from when he touches the brake pedal to getting to the apex, how late he can go and still pull the car up in the middle part.
The speed, yeah.
It's really impressive. So he's just obviously dialed in at the moment. And then my second point was Cam. Again, just mega. Like I think for him, the race pace wasn't spectacular, but I don't think that's to say his qualifying car was either. I think that's Cam. You know, I think what we're seeing Randall do is probably more what that car, or close. I think Randall's really good. And I think Cam is overachieving in qualifying. So he was my next note there.
Reynolds had a good quali in 5th.
Yeah, great.
So, yeah, he started the weekend a little bit slow and they turned that round. So that was good for Dave to get a bit of confidence and a bit of speed out of his car.
And Bryce Ford again, P9 in the top 10. Cameron Hill, 8th. Woody was 7th in this one. So this is where it may be a quick car, but maybe not the easiest car to drive, because Chaz was P14 in this one. So Chaz and Brody, this is where I think we saw this last race was really tricky for the Shell V-Power racing team, but I'm sure that they're having big swings. Yep. They would have gone home Saturday night, reinvented the wheel to try and find that bit more, because their expectation is to be top 5. And they've come out, and unfortunately, Davo's 20th and Brody's 15th.
Yeah. And also, as we touched on earlier, mate, Cam Hill actually qualified 8th but didn't get to take the grid because it took the grid. It didn't fire up on the formation lap.
I know.
And then, unfortunately...
Watching the guys run past the garage, it's just like, you're just gutted for them, because I think they really do a good job, those guys.
That's one rule. I get why it's in there, but that's one rule I just wish that maybe they could take out, and like he could have been push started and it didn't need to start back under its own steam because he was going to keep the car running, and then, do you know what I mean, to at least take the start, because the whole rule is you've got to start under your own steam.
Yeah, you're not allowed to be push started.
It would have been great if the marshals could have jumped over the wall, bump started him so he could rejoin back on, get going, take the start of the race, and then if he comes in for his pit stop and the thing dies or it stalls, they've given it, like, that's,
yeah,
to me,
like
one
not being
thing.
allowed to bump start once the race has commenced, you're right, is different to the formation lap. If you could get assistance there, I agree, that's not a bad point.
I just think any time you can keep a car on the grid and starting from its position, it's good for the show, good for the fans, good for the sport.
Problem you'll run into, though, I reckon, is a lot more cars would start failing because you would run less assistance of things on the grid.
Yeah, you'd be taking.
So you'd be like, well, we can get
pulleys off alternators and stuff. And
you'd be going, well, we can get push started. So if the battery does run flat, it's fine.
Yeah.
Whereas every time we pull up, there's always things as part of your system that you turn off or make sure aren't running so that the car does start. So, but I do think you're right. There should be a way. It would be cool if he could have got assistance, especially because smaller teams,
because
all of them, need that.
Yeah, like an alternator fails, which
sometimes.
I think may have happened to his car, which means they could start it off the jump pack, but then have to kill it and it has to start again and obviously wouldn't do it. So it's kind of like, yeah, that's just one thing I think, it'd be good if there was some way around that. But
Flynn Johnson, again, most of you guys probably, pretty switched on, was alternator issue and it kept turning off once they started it. So even once they got it going, it would turn off.
Well, there you go.
So that's a unique situation which a push start wouldn't have helped. But Prezzo also said if you give the teams an inch, they'll take a mile. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. They're all competitors. They'll look for every little bit of advantage they can.
No doubt. There'll just be cases of alternators in the car. No actual alternator.
Yeah, exactly.
They run so much stuff, to your point, Flynn, about fans and different auxiliaries and stuff. So, yeah, obviously without the alternator, she's just probably not going to run. But that was just disappointing for Cam because I would have liked to have seen what he could have done coming off 8th.
And then in the race, I think that's really it for qualifying. Yeah. The only thing I did put in there, that Golding was P6.
Yeah, he was good.
He's fast, just needs that little bit of consistency. I still feel like he's up and down a bit at the moment.
Sorry, Big.
You just stepped on Biggie. I heard him.
Sorry, mate. Another one?
Yes, please, mate. I think Golding was quick on the weekend, just probably not quite putting it all together, and a bit of consistency is what he's searching for. But Brock got the win in the race. I'm pretty annoyed about that.
I picked him. I just knew he was going to have a weekend.
Yeah.
How good was James Courtney?
And then, so Matty Payne P2 and James Courtney P3.
So BRT, first podium ever. And they've had glimpses, like remember when Slade, their first year at Bathurst, was running...
Or when he was 4th or something?
He was right there, hit the wall.
Qualifying.
Crashed the thing. I think he qualified 2nd and then, crashed. And they've had opportunities and things have gone against them. So it was nice that something went for them to actually give them a bit of sugar because they've obviously invested heavily as well this year. Nice to everyone needs that result to sort of give yourself the motivation to keep pushing, and that was good, I thought.
They do. And then with Maddie Payne getting second, there was a lot of high fives going around. But one thing I was really surprised about was they went so long in the first part of that race with Kai Allen that they were setting himself up in the back end because he qualified 23rd. He had a really tough. So he had 2 great qualifyings in the 10 and then qualified 23rd for this race. So they looked outside the box for strategy. What can they do? They ran to, I'm pretty sure it was like lap 50 or something in the race.
Yeah,
it was a fucking long way. And he only lost 0.2 of a second.
Oh, but the deg was huge.
Unbelievable. It was amazing that there's no deg in that thing. But this is what I want to talk about. I was surprised that, so obviously Maddie Payne was going longer as well, probably waiting for a safety car because he had the fuel issues. So he knew that they were up shit creek without a paddle because they didn't get all of the fuel in the first one. So that was, I'm sure, their plan as well. But for Kai Allen, they went so long in the first one and then they pitted with 20 to go. I felt like they could have gone, or they should have gone longer in the middle because of that safety car risk, because they're obviously considering it with Maddie, unless it was just complete kissed on the dick.
Well, they had picked, as you say, they had picked that long strategy, which is you would do to go, well, let's just bank on a late safety car.
And it was working so well. Yeah. They knew that the deg wasn't an issue for him, so you could have gone past lap 20 waiting for a safety car opportunity, and instead they pitted pretty much the lap before the safety car or a couple laps before. So I thought that was a big mistake. So I think that's where the team would, I hope, go back and go, you know what, guys, we got lucky twice now with the safety car. I really think that at the end of that, they had the fuel flow rate issue. I think the strategy was actually quite bad on Kai's car in the end because they set themselves up well and then, you know, pitted earlier than I think they needed to.
Yeah.
I think definitely Kai should have been later than Maddie Payne.
Yes, correct.
So pitting him before Maddie Payne, I thought was just...
It was weird to go the long and then go short.
Yeah, I did not get it. So I'm like, I get you high-fiving, but to be honest, if, as a team owner or a team manager, you'd be fucking devastated because the team's championship is so important.
That could have been
2 cars
on the podium. Yeah, it would have been JC. They would have bumped JC out.
Exactly,
for sure.
and that's definitely where it's great to celebrate one or getting lucky with one, but you got to analyse everything. And I think fuel flow rate or the connection, there's an issue there. The mechanics obviously celebrating after their final pit stop's great, but equally you guys just had a bad pit stop. So I'm not all for the high-fiving. You should still be in the game and...
Still, obviously, a great job for Kai because he was up 14 positions and finished 8th. But it could have been...
Oh, it would have been much better.
It could have been so much better, yeah.
Yeah, I think
So it was a good crawl out because he did qualify so poorly, but as you said, it could have been like...
Well, he would have been right behind
0 to hero.
JC, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because I think JC was ahead on track before that. But anyway, I thought that was a bit of a blunder, actually. So, yes, they got lucky, but I didn't think their strategy was very good, to be honest.
I was surprised that JC was able to gap Waters with those last few laps as well. I know his tyres were a little bit better, but that's where I thought it was a strong job by JC because there was still pressure there. There was a restart with strong cars, strong drivers behind him, and he held his own and actually gapped Cam to hold on to that podium. So that's where I thought it was, yes, they got lucky, but also they had to maintain it.
Exactly, yeah. And I text Dennis this morning, which we... I think we announced it on this pod, didn't we? We broke the news with Dennis.
Yeah, we did.
Dennis, who's here joining Blanchard Racing Team. I actually texted him this morning, I think it was, and I just said, congratulations, great job, and it was good that every now and then we all need a bit of luck, but to pass the guys he did and gap Cam, I think was, his move on Woody was great. I mean, Woody did have an 8-lap tyre disadvantage, so that's huge. Yep. I'll get to that because I do think Woody could have also done a better job in that situation, but he did a great job, wise head, and got past them and then gapped Cam, which I do think proved that he had car speed. And I think that's what you're saying congratulations for me. I was like, you got a bit of luck, but he proved once in that position he deserved to finish third.
Once he had the track position, he could hold it.
It was great. And so that's what they should be. That's the thing I'd walk away from the weekend going, fuck, we got in that position and proved that if we're in that position, we can back it up.
And that's where they would, to your point, be like, all right, let's really focus on our quality car because if we can start further up, we're going to get these results.
Yeah, because it is, you mentioned qualifying. That was probably where JC, I know he got the podium, but I'm nearly split between him as a who forgot, which is because when I'm looking at the results of qualifying, he had dropped off quite a lot from Tasmania. And considering how fast the Walkinshaw package is and they are a customer team, I thought it was. But the reason I kind of just ignore that is because the Walkinshaw car doesn't seem easy for one lap because Chaz was 15th or 14th, whatever it was, 11th. It's not like that Walkinshaw was a plug and play. No. So I do think the race pace that JC showed was the main thing. So he is up there as a contender, the who remembered really. And
we love a good news story here.
We do? And also, I thought his racing was good. But Woody, I did make a note. So scroll down your driver notes there, mate. It's down a fair way. But I thought we might as well jump ahead as we're like debriefing, because this is really from race 3, a lot of these notes, because race 1 and 2 I thought was pretty straightforward, obviously with Woody's mechanical failure and a couple others worth talking about. But race 3, there was a bit more going on. And I thought Woody, on that restart with JC, probably put himself in a position where he should have been a little bit more aggressive on blocking, really shut that inside down. I think he was a little concerned about the switchback, so he did open up the entry a little bit.
Yep.
And JC, you can't fool that guy twice. He was straight down there and nudged him wide. And the only reason I think he could have been more aggressive was it would have helped him with the overheating of the tyres. Degradation's not an issue, but the commentators never mentioned this once. The whole reason we see tyres deg there is actually thermal, so they overheat when you're behind someone. So if he could have held him off for 2 laps, 3 laps.
Yep. So the temperature of the tyre.
I think he could have overheated JC's tyre and had a better chance. But little mistake there. And then that really put him on the back foot, because once you're on the outside of 6, you're fucked. Like you can't do anything. Waters was straight down there. You're out of position and you're going to lose 2 or 3 spots in supercars. The main game field is too close.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. And sort of, as you say, the WA thing not plug and play, because Chaz was pole, then 11th and 14th.
Yeah.
So either it's really hard to get right, it's just you've got to be perfect to extract the speed, or there's a little bit of inconsistency there with the organic spaces potentially, or the team.
Yeah.
So either the guy's not maximising because it's really difficult to get it perfect, or there's some inconsistency between runs.
Yeah, because and we do always say, often it's the team that you know what someone's going to have when they roll up based on last year's performance. But this weekend, I do think Chaz will probably feel a little bit flat, because 11th and 14th in those 2 races, the car was probably better than that, which means that maybe he would be looking back and thinking, shit, is that one where I left some performance on the table? But he still did a good job to come through in the races. Like, he had great speed in the race, but he'll be kicking himself a little bit, because starting there, you don't really give yourself an opportunity to win when the guys at the front, like Matty Payne, Cam Waters and Brock, are and Will finished second in that first race. He clawed his way up there. But when they're starting 3rd, 4th, 1st, 2nd, you starting 11th and 14th don't have a shot.
I actually think it was a really good weekend for the sport to prove, which you didn't really need, but to prove how competitive the championship is, because when you look at the qualies and the race results, there was one of every team almost in the 10. Yeah. And sometimes it was 2, but there was a big spread of teams that were in the 10 across quali sessions and all races. Yep. Which to me just shows how competitive it is. You had BGR cars in the 10, you had Premier cars in the 10, Team 18 cars in the 10, Triple 8, it's just bloody competitive.
100%.
So I think that was really, to me, highlighted this weekend. Yep. And I think that's why we're seeing it going, oh shit, who kind of forgot? Because it hadn't changed a lot between Taz, and it's so bloody competitive. And at a place like that where, again, it's under a minute again, like Tassie per lap. It just
field spread was bigger than I actually expected, though.
It's heightened. Well, yeah. So what do we have? 40 seconds was it across the field?
No, but I mean in qualifying. Qualifying was what surprised me.
That did surprise me a little bit, but
I did not expect. 8 tenths covered the field in Q2.
Yep.
But Q3, where's my Q3? Q3 1.7, obviously an issue for Jackson, but 1.1 to Jack LeBrock in 24th. 1.1 seconds around a 54-second lap.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
No, it is a lot.
That actually did surprise me.
They had if you're going to go who forgot, geez, Erebus struggled across both cars. Jack been in the championship a while now, very unlike him to run so far down. Cooper was down the back. So, if we're going to go to the who remembered who forgot, I guess who forgot for me would probably be Erebus had a shit one. They just had no car. It just looked like they had 0 car speed across the whole weekend.
Yeah.
Which is, to be honest, it's kind of unlike them. They've the last 5 years they've had fast cars nearly everywhere. At least cars in the 10.
Dude, one thing I found today was it feels like they've been quick for a lot, but Brody Kosecki's only won 2 races outside of his championship season. So the whole time there, he had the one season with 8 wins, I think it was, or something. Yep. And then he only won Bathurst, which is huge, and Gold Coast. So he had a run of 2 events where he's strong. And outside that, even last year, I know he sat out the first couple of events, but he didn't come back and go boom to the front. You know, they have.
But they were never like 20th, though, were they?
Yeah. For him, he was at points.
Oh, were they?
Yeah. They struggled a fair bit at the start of the season. I felt like they did lose their way a little bit. I know there's a big staff changeover and stuff. So,
I'm sorry. I'm talking more like pre their championship.
well, even before that, Will won at Sydney Motorsport Park and beat J-Dub and Shane. You know, he was fast that weekend. They had 2 podiums the year before for Brodie as well before he won the championship. So
Anton won races with him. Dave won races with him.
yeah, it wasn't like it is like since their championship year. I think the following year they struggled, and then this year the engine failures are usually a lifing or something where you're running the engines longer than you should. But I don't really know what happened there with Cooper, but they are last. And one of the points I made, Cooper scored 29 points on the weekend, which is just, you know, he's 155 points off of last place. It's been one of like that is and I think I put in there that it shows the step up to main game and how important a fast car is, because we saw him in the super cheap car qualify 5th and out qualify Brock Feeney in Darwin last year or year before last. No, last year.
Last year.
In his first ever supercar event.
Yep.
So whatever Erebus is doing at the moment is just not providing the cars for the guys. But Cooper now, first impressions mean a lot. And his first impression when he's joined the main game has not been great. No one's talking about him. And that's a sad thing about our sport, because not to say that Cooper can't drive.
Yeah, we're in Darwin last year. To your point, he was the whiz kid.
He's the whiz kid.
Yeah.
Whereas now all the hype around that kid and his stocks have just crashed. This is where I do think I'd love to see, and you won't see it, but I do want to see Journo start to talk or dive a little deeper on performance across a weekend, like what actually is a contributing factor. Because to see, this is where the Team 18 post came from, to see a team say, our driver, and this is like Charlie should never be in front of a camera, but when he says our driver's pretty much driving for his career and he needs to get results, a journo is never going to go down to him and say, well, hang on a minute, like, are you providing him the equipment that would allow him to drive for his career?
Or ask the obvious question, well, he was winning races 6 months ago, why is he not now in another organisation?
Exactly. And no one will. And no one will.
Question,
because exactly. And Sleuth and Speed Cafe, now I get it. They need access to the pits. And even someone in broadcast told me today, you can't ask those questions really, because you know it's a privilege to have the access we do to the teams. But I'm sorry, we need someone to ask the real fucking questions, because you know in the AFL, I mean, people are losing access to the locker rooms because they're saying really what needs to be said, holding people accountable. And unfortunately for people like Cooper, it's putting him in a position where he can't make a stamp on his career. He's in a bad car. He looks average. I mean, to score 29 points on a weekend, regardless of mechanical failures, at the end of the season, it's only the leaderboard people look at. No one's going to look back and be like, oh, he had 4 mechanical failures or slow pit stops. It's always, oh, shit, he had a bad rookie season. Look at
unfortunately,
other rookie.
The shine wears off pretty quick, doesn't it? Like people...
Real fast.
Well, that's where the whole who forgot remember, like short memories in motorsport.
100%.
You're only as good as your last race, as we said earlier. Like, and it doesn't matter why you have the result you have, whether it be bad car, bad luck, whatever.
Yep.
Drive mistakes, whatever it be. They're just going to look down the order and go, oh, well, you were 20th, so. Yeah,
and everyone's got a short memory. I think it was great that like Adrian Burgess came out today and did sort of give Dave a nice endorsement. I spoke to Adrian yesterday. It was great. Like, I think he should be the guy that's in the press conferences, definitely should be the guy that's talking to camera, because he gets it. He's a racer.
Well, yeah. We jokingly said over text, like, they should almost make supercars like the British Football League, where if teams aren't performing, they get demoted.
Yeah.
And then the next best team, like, to try and we only say that kind of tongue-in-cheek jokingly, but to try and put some emphasis on the teams to perform, not just relying on the driver or the driver being the scapegoat when things aren't going well.
Yeah, I said this to Adrian. Like, we see comments online of people saying that drivers are hogging seats and holding seats. Well, hang on. And this is where the Apex Hunters post was. How do we put pressure on a team owner to say, well, hang on, you're not just guaranteed to own these 2 seats forever because you can afford to. If you're not performing, this is meant to be the top level of motorsport. You shouldn't be here, because it's very competitive, and there should be someone else that's prepared to step up and buy that wreck off of you. And there has to be some kind of performance caveat that says, hang on, if you're not doing a good job and all you're doing is, you know, trundling around, it's been long enough. There should be that demotion system. At the moment, Erebus would be on the cutoff line. And I get that at the moment, it's a hypothetical. Super 2 run different cars. We know the cost. We know that if you've got a sponsor and they're multi-year deals, what do you do? But it's just one of those things that, like, how do you put the same pressure on everyone as what the drivers are under, because you're constantly on the chopping block as a driver. But if you're in bad equipment, like Cooper, he's not going to qualify fifth and out-qualify Brock Feeney at Darwin this weekend. Just 99.9% sure that will not happen.
It's
almost
almost,
not
yeah.
because he's forgotten how to drive.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them. It's everyone in the lane. And then, it can go the other way too, where like we've just said, Chaz probably had a better car than what he delivered. So that weekend's maybe on him. It goes both ways. It's not just to say, oh, well, it's always the team or it's always the driver.
Yeah.
But journos and reporters they'll never question the team. And I have a theory on it. It's because drivers come and go. It's like coaches, right? It's easy to replace the organic spacer and then sell the dream for the next 3 years for a new sponsor to come in. But if they were to call out a team or the person's guaranteed to be here tomorrow, and then they don't get access anymore, their job is gone. So they'll never talk positively about a driver's performance or be critical about a team's performance because the big dog's the one they need. The journos do not care about the drivers.
That's where like GT drivers and even NASCAR to some extent are quite lucky when the drivers are with a manufacturer group and the manufacturer places them in a team.
Yeah.
So even if the team's not performing, you just go back to Chev as an example, go, mate, this team's no good, put me somewhere else. And they get passed around a bit, but they keep their drive, they keep their job.
Yeah.
They just get put in other places where, like here, it's obviously different. The drivers drive for the teams, not the manufacturer. So, it's interesting, like, just to get conversation going around what models they think, if there needs to be change, or would there be a model that could be adopted that would work to try and do a bit of that, put a bit more pressure on the teams, and it's not just a given that you're going to be there forever.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've got leading the team's championship points. We've got Red Bull Ampol Racing.
I'm just going to take a piss.
Go for it. I'll wait for you then.
I'm back.
All right. He's back.
Sound check.
Ooh. Lovely.
I was holding off on that one. I needed to go, so I better not crack that.
No, good point. All right, so current standings of the team, championship points.
Let's do it.
So Red Bull Ampol Racing up the road on 2,290 points. And then we've got Monster Castrol Racing in second on 1,801. And then we've got Penrite have actually jumped up to third. So they've bumped WAU. So they've gone from fourth to third. So changing the pit lane for Darwin there.
Yep.
Which is cool on 1,550. So a bit of a gap between even really second and third now. It's blown out to a couple hundred points there as well. Tight between third and fourth. So 1,550 for Penrite, 1,508 for WAU. Shell are maintaining in fifth. We've then got Matt Stone Racing in sixth. The RJ Batteries and Shaw Racing for BJR in seventh. Team 18 is eighth. Premier ninth. The second of the BJR, so SCT and Pete's Art Racing in 10th. And then BJR jumped Erebus, so they're 11th and Erebus is 12th.
Yeah. And then the thing that probably stood out to me was the gap to Tickford now is 489 points to second. So we're nearly at 500-point gap at round 5. So that just shows, I guess, the first and second drivers need to be consistent and close. And that's where I think that Groves will probably be kicking himself after the weekend because they've done a great job. Kai still got a mega result, but it could have been better.
Yep.
And I think, there's a few teams that happens with, and then even Tickford Walkinshaw on the weekend. I think they're coming away from there feeling great about themselves, but realistically, you'd almost be devastated because you had two of the fastest cars or second fastest cars, and you kind of got nothing from it. So they are 782 points behind first now, Walkinshaw. So a big gap. So they fell to fourth. So to be honest, to fall from third to fourth on a weekend that you had arguably the fastest car is an absolute disaster.
It would be a bizarre feeling because, you're so right. You'd be going, we had good car speed, but we really came around with half the points we should have.
And you're heading to a track that you typically struggle at. So it'd be interesting to see if, did they actually find anything, or is it just repeating itself from last year where they had a car on the front row, Woody got his first front row. They had a 1-2 there in quali last year. So is this just Walkinshaw doing Walkinshaw things again where they have their couple events really good and then they go back to struggling? And that's why on those weekends, like we just saw, you got to capitalise because you're not guaranteed that when you turn up to the next one, you're going to be competitive. So to give away that many points on a weekend like that, I think they'll be really frustrated with. Of course, mechanical failures, the racing incidents, you can't sometimes control them, but I do think it's not all bad luck. Like that race with Golding, I do think the blame. I would like to just talk about that for 2 minutes.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
it was a drive-through penalty at the end of the day for Golding. Golding, classic apex hunted at turn 1, opened the door up and let Woody down the inside. They ran side by side up through 2-3, which was fine. Woody, though, sort of squeezed him onto the inside. He bounced across a spoon drain. There's a little drain on the inside there, which caused the car to lock a front. They made contact and it broke the steering. When you're on the outside of turn 4, you kind of don't really have anywhere to go. It's difficult to keep the overlap, particularly late in the race when there's that many marbles. So Woody didn't have much of an option on the outside anyway, I don't think. His best option was probably just give James some space because James did dive back down there.
Lived to fight another
but
corner, yeah.
But even if he didn't survive, it's kind of one of those ones where I don't know that the blame completely landed on Golding. I don't think to the extent of a pit lane penalty. Like, I don't think that was a drive-through. But it was one of those ones that, okay, maybe some of the portion of the blame landed more on Golding. And I reckon they would have said it was because he missed the apex so bad at 1, he lunged back at 4 to get back in position. Because really, he did probably give the spot up by missing the apex at 1 and running wide. So that's probably where I reckon, like what he did at Taupo, he went back a couple of corners and said, well, actually, what got you to this position?
You stuffed up here. You should have conceded that you stuffed up, made a mistake. You should have got past and then filed in. Yeah.
So maybe that's why they did that. But again, Woody's got to look back and go, had he blocked at turn 6 on the restart on James Corney, he wouldn't have been in that position. You know what I mean? Like there's always a chain of events that you've got to go back and go, what could I have done differently? And I'm telling you, because I've made heaps of mistakes. I've crashed loads of times. I look back and go, fucking hell, why didn't I
came back here 2-3 laps.
Yeah,
if I hadn't qualified, so shit, I wouldn't be next lap peanut or whatever. Yeah,
we've all been there. So it's just one of those things that you go, okay, it's not just that incident. So you can't come away and be like, I don't know which black cat we ran over. There's always a reason for it. You just got to go back and find what put me in that situation. And it's one of those. So for Walkinshaw, that was a bigger gap than I expected because, the team's championship means a lot to everyone. And it's not competition at the moment. Like 780 points behind is devastating. And all you can really hope then for is just the odd race win. And then obviously with the finals series, you hope that you can win the Drivers' Championship with that format now. But Woody is, to be honest, I don't think Townsville are that strong either. It might be this year, but typically they've struggled. So he may even struggle to stay in the 10. It could be one of those that he might have a couple bad rounds and he's not in the top 10 of the championship anymore. Yeah,
well, it's not that far between, if we talk about championship points then, going from there, Ryan in 10th has James Golding in 11th. And there's only, what's that, like 13 or 14 points between. It's not a big gap.
Isn't it kind of ironic that it's those two in 10th and 11th now?
And it looks like Golding's starting to find a little bit of speed more regularly. So I think he's going to be racing in that top 6.
Yep.
Hopefully for him more regularly. So he's definitely one that can jump his way in, which is a bit of a bummer that he had that shit result because he was obviously racing hard because he was in the mix.
I would say, though, that Golding, he raced quite desperately.
Yes.
But this is where this is where I think it's cool that you and I have had some experience because we've been in that situation where you are struggling a bit through a season or you've got a fast car today and you might not tomorrow. So you try desperate. You're like, this could be my only shot. That's your point to prove that day and you've got the car. Whereas, we see less mistakes at like Tickford and Triple Eight at the moment where the guys like Cam and those guys are consistently at the front. They'll sometimes concede a position and play the long game because they know tomorrow they'll probably qualify well and be in the same spot. Whereas if someone like Golding, this might be his only shot for the next 3 events. So you do make decisions that others might not if based on confidence and just being a little bit calmer. So I don't think he should cop a big whack for it. I do think he didn't in his post-race take any accountability, which is exactly what happened at Gold Coast when I spoke to him. Same thing at Darwin before Gold Coast when I spoke to him about our incidents we'd had to get. It's like straight over his head. So I think they'll continue to happen, but I think they happen because of that reason. It's not like he's there every day and he can be a bit calmer.
Yeah, it's not apples with apples. You can't compare, like you're saying, like a Brock, as an example, will go, okay, I've lost that spot. I'm going to get it back either the next lap or the next race.
Yeah.
Because as you say, confident he's going to have the tools to do the job every race. But as you said, you're so right, mate. And we would have both had it. Like I've had it before where you kick yourself because you're like, that was a car that was better than what I or you do get desperate and you go, oh, I've got to lunge now because I need to clear him because I've
Yeah.
got speed on hand. And then you fuck up and you door someone. And so it is a bit, it's just not apples with apples through the field, and it's harder to judge them on their racing because, as you said, like the desperation does come in, and they're racing for their careers as well.
Definitely.
Still. So.
Yeah, it's hard to make the right decisions when sometimes you haven't had a consistent run of results,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's stuff you got to get on top of, because what's happened now, we're seeing with the points, we're bouncing back a little bit between drivers and teams, but I think that's fine. The drivers' championship, the top 10 never changed from Tasmania to this weekend,
Which is crazy because
it's a bit of a concern.
Because there was a couple of DNFs and a few mechanicals within that, and there still wasn't
the
a
top
lot.
10 is the exact same as it was.
So a few people got lucky, I think, mate. Like Cam Hill with having that alternator drama got lucky.
Yeah.
Ryan Wood with the mechanical failure and the shit fight in the last race got lucky,
Yep.
but he didn't drop more points.
They're the weekends, like, Golding should look back at this weekend and be absolutely kicking himself, though, because he did say in a post-race, there's plenty more racing to go, though, before this is over. Mate, that was your weekend where others stepped on their dick that you could have capitalised and walked away with a bag of points and be comfortably in the top 10. And then you wouldn't be as he's going to be desperate again, because the next race, he hasn't taken any pressure off himself. If he just finished 5th, right? 6th. If he just, it's like chasing Will across what the fuck was that? It was so stupid to chase him across. He moved late. And even Will said after, had he just sort of positioned the car in the middle, so I was like, okay, he knows I'm kind of going to have a lunge. It would have, you'd go, shit, he's aware. He goes, he was on the left.
Woody was on the grass then.
No, this is Will versus Golding.
Oh, sorry.
Down in the last corner.
Yeah, sorry.
And Will said, man, he was like on the white line, race line. And I'm like, okay, like I'll go.
Yeah.
And then he chased across. And I think you've left the door open. Unfortunately, mate, you've made the mistake. Yeah. Had he just given up the one position.
That was close to being a fair old.
Oh,
that could have been a disaster, yeah.
And then not recovering from that, I think, flows more mistakes. It's like, man, if he looks back and goes, fuck, if I just finished 6th, like the podium was there, great. But even if I finished 6th, I'd be easily in the 10 of the championship now, and I can go to Darwin with a little bit of momentum.
We had Pole at Darwin.
And the pressure, last year.
So
last year.
They'll have speed, I reckon, at Darwin too. So he's going, he could have gone, right, bag some points, we're going now to a place that I'm strong, car's going to be good.
Yeah. And it comes down to engineers too, getting on the radio, saying the right things at the right time. F1's great for it.
Knowing how your driver responds and when they need hey, just calm down or fire up. I mean, that is such a big thing, the relationship between, I know everyone knows that, right? But it is such a big thing. Like, and as a driver, you can hear in your engineer's voice if they're stressing, and then it makes you stress. Like if they're happy or not. And if they're happy, like we're all good.
Yeah.
And if you can hear they're just a little bit stressed, like, oh fuck, I'm not doing a good job here. Like
I struggled with that a little bit with Andrew, because Andrew at AAA is very calm.
Right.
And I think as well, like they're so used to doing well that like, in the past, like my teams, you're like, oh, we're P3, this is great, Scotty. You can hear in their voice, they're up and about. You almost hear like when there's a few laps to go, the people in the background
cheering and stuff. Yeah.
getting excited. Whereas like we're leading Sandown and they're like, okay, gap's 0.3. And I'm like, am I doing all right? Like, do I need to do anything? He's like, no, you're fine. I'm like, hang
sure?
on.
Because you sound like I'm doing a shit job here, mate.
Yeah, please tell me I'm doing all right. Like it's like, and so an engineer, and then and Andrew, that's his personality. You get to know them, but sometimes it's nice. You need a bit of encouragement, or maybe you need bring him back a little bit. You see that move down in the last corner, get on the radio and go, mate, we're all good here. It's a fantastic position. Call your jets.
Yeah.
Slide back in.
Yeah, get your rhythm, you're good to go.
I heard Krusty doing it to Dave Reynolds on the radio, and because Dave got hung out to dry at 6, lost 4 spots in 1 lap, and Krusty was on the radio straight away. Wise head, just said, get back in your rhythm. It's okay. We're all good here. Play the long game.
Yep.
You just need that reminder to snap you out of the red mist, and we've all been there where you need someone to just go.
Oh, 100%. It's such a big thing. I think sometimes people underestimate how much a driver can just tell from the voice. Like from,
or how much of a psychology role an engineer can play. Robbie Starr once, Robbie Starr is a legend of the sport. He's been 91. He was a mechanic for Brocky at HRT, and he's been all the way through with the same team. And once at Bathurst, I remember I was tearing up on the radio, and I was like, I needed the stop for fuel, and they prioritised JC over me. And I remember complaining on the radio, and Starry got on the radio and said, Scott, this is Bathurst, and it's not over till it's over. Like, pull your fucking head in.
Yeah, yeah.
I think he like was quite aggressive with it.
Yeah.
And which is how I love to be spoken to. I was like, oh, yep, okay. And I was like, okay, cool.
Copy.
3 laps later, we went green. 3 laps later, safety car, and he goes, see, Scott, you can make it on fuel now. You're in second, second I think it was. And he goes, you're in second now. We're good on fuel. And I'm like, okay, Starry, I'm sorry. Yep, good point. You were right. Like, you just need that guy to pull you back in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Just looking at the points, mate, before we cover off on that. So back to 14th, which is Will Davo. He's on 546 post Perth. And Woody is on 631. So it's about 80-odd points. What's that? 89 points? Something like that. Away from jumping in the 10 there for the bubble. So, yeah. As we touched on pre-Perth, they need to start getting their skates on if they're going to try and make that happen for Davo's car. And that's about as far back. I don't think that's changed in my mind. That's about as far back as I think we'll jump.
Yes, I think if you're 8th, you're already locked into the finals nearly.
Yeah, we've got 3 rounds to go.
Yeah.
You either need some guys around you to have a couple of DNFs, which is really, DNFs are unlikely in supercars. Like, unless you get the odd mechanical fail, which, okay, we saw on the weekend, but that's very rare. So
here's one for you. Should this round have been the end of the sprint championship already? Just because we do so many races. Yes, we've only done 5 rounds, but we're already at race 16. So what's NASCAR go to? 18 before the end of 16 races until the end of and then it goes into the.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So we're at the same number of races as NASCAR do, because what's happening, the field spread in the championship order is so great that we don't see changes anymore in the championship order.
Well, we saw that with the 10 didn't change, hey?
So and what's happening is that means that anyone finishing in the front, 26 races, someone said.
Yeah, way off, Scott.
Way off.
Prezzo, love it.
So I'd like to see their point system though, because I don't think we may see maybe 9th, but I reckon 10th and 11th are probably the only 2 that would really be changing on the bubble there. I don't see many people above 9th getting bumped out of the top 10 anymore.
Yeah.
I think the championship is kind of settled and the top 10 is what it will be, maybe regardless of 1 or 2 cars. So I think if you went to top 8 now, and it doesn't have to be a sprint championship, which is like it's titled as a championship. It could just be like part 1, because then it puts emphasis on trying to stay in the 8, and then you're going to push people to take more risk in the races for wins. Whereas now, we're already talking, had Golding just bagged points, but that makes for a boring championship. We want people to be like, fuck, now I need to be 8th in the championship. So how do I get that jump?
Yeah.
It needs to keep the pressure up. Because at the moment, I just don't see it changing very much now. I think Woody will stay in, but I think maybe Andre Heimgartner, just because he's having a tough run. But Brody Kostecki is 160 points safe. He's not.
Yeah.
He's 7th.
Is it also a case of, I'm just thinking out loud, which is always dangerous, is it also a case of it's the usual suspects finishing in the usual spots, and that's why it's looking like it is, as in the points? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
Like when you look at it, they're kind of, I'd have to go through every race, but they're kind of the ones that are always in the 10, and have been. And is that why it makes it look worse? Like, is that why the point structure needs a bit of a tweak? Because there are sort of 4 or 5 teams that are consistently in there.
Maybe.
I don't know.
That's just ended up as big gaps, I think, between each position now. It's not really changing anymore.
Totally agree. For me, I look at that now and go, well, it's probably not going to change much. So the excitement's gone.
Until it resets, until the Enduros at the bend.
Yeah.
Shell V-Power is kind of, I feel like they're hanging in there as the back of the lead teams in 5th and 6th with Matty Stone. I think they're doing a great job. We kind of never talk about BJR, but recently I spoke obviously about Team 18, talking about Grove as well with their pit stops and being critical. Like BJR is that team that kind of flies under the radar.
Yep.
But what's happening with them at the moment? Because Heimgartner he can clearly drive, but he's not getting the results at the moment. Now we're seeing McCauley up there, but they're still not. That's a team that, when have they ever been like, you haven't really considered them as contenders. So every team should be talked about equally, but BJR flies under the radar all the time, but they never really perform. Like after how long they existed, and when they finish 4th or 5th or 6th, we celebrate it. Whereas other teams, we go, like Premier, how hard are we being on them going, they've been investing forever. When's the buck stop with them and go, where are you getting the results? We do it with, who's the other one? Groves. We've even said about them.
Yeah.
But BJR has been around forever, and they're doing arguably less than both.
Well, and it's also exaggerated with BJR because they run a 4-car program. So they'll, like the 8-car or Andre will generally get a podium or a win or a couple here or there throughout a year, but it's only ever across 1 car, not all 4.
But then is that just someone holding wrecks that shouldn't be allowed to just hold wrecks because that's their business? So it's still a sport. We want to see people wanting to compete. So 4 might work for their business model, but is that in the best interest for all of the fans?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's why I think it is a good move that they are going to next year Toyota, because then I think they're going to have the ability to potentially, if they're getting more funding from Toyota, see if they can produce 4 cars equally, and maybe they will start to be more consistent. Like, was it just a funding thing or resources? Be interesting, but to your original point on that, interesting that Andre has almost... The last 2 rounds, it's kind of flipped at BJR. It's almost like the Macaulay and Jackson and, well, Bryce as well.
Yeah, it has, but we're celebrating like 7th to 14th, those positions. I'm only saying they're probably the ones people should be most critical of because they've been around forever.
No, it's not their first rodeo.
Yeah. But yeah, they do get under the radar. Like, they're not one that I even
They're not one that ever gets... I know what you're saying. They're not one that gets ever criticised.
Yeah.
For... If they underperform, it's like, okay, well, they've had a shit run. And if they go well, then it's like... celebrations. And it's also a place where I think they give a reasonable car where you can actually, like Bryce proves it, Andre proves it. If you do a good job, Jackson was proving it the last 2 rounds, you'll actually run in the 10.
Yep.
And as you say, without the expectation of it being expected on you.
Yeah. We did talk up Jackson though. He didn't do that.
He was still...
Oh, he finished 12th on race 3.
Yeah, he was still ahead of Andre. Andre just had a weird weekend, and Tassie too. So that's just a bit strange, out of character, because he's normally punches above his weight, I would think.
We have a couple of additional notes. Larko needs a stopwatch. We kind of touched on that, but it'd be great to see him. I was surprised how accurate he was. He was actually pretty close.
He was within a 10th.
The one thing, just quickly, what do you think of the safety car? The pitting under the virtual safety car, I think, is tough for a competitor, but great for fans. But what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of just prefer the old school safety.
Because they're trying to do it for safety, but do you think they should be able to pit under it? Do you think it should be, like I spoke to Jamie and he said maybe an option is it's 80 for the sector that the accident's in, but then you run the risk of recovery vehicles being on track.
Yeah.
But, and I was like, well, why can't we close the lane? But then he said it's a bigger penalty because then if they regroup them, then it reopens when the safety car, then you're last. So it's more luck.
I think sometimes, like, it is what it is. And, like, sometimes people get lucky, they roll dice and it works for them. Sometimes that's a good thing for the sport because it gives... Yeah,
but you got to be a competitor and that's
what I'm saying from a sport point of view.
Yeah, then
I don't mind it. If I'm in the car and it goes against me, I think it's the world's shittest idea.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the different thing is. For me, I'm not racing in supercars, I'm watching on the couch, and I enjoy it when it throws a spanner in the works like a JC gets on the podium or something like that, because I'm like, well, that come out of nowhere. So from the sports entertainment point of view, I don't mind it. I completely understand it from a competitor's point of view, and that's a different argument.
Yeah. One thing I think's great, and this is not good for Triple Eight, but teams like Triple Eight that are at the front would never take the risk of hanging out for a safety car. Like, everyone that gets lucky are the cars that have had a drama or they've qualified at the back and they're trying to, throw a haymaker and get lucky. But like Andrew Edwards after the race, I spoke to him for a little while and he said, I'm kind of kicking myself that I pitted when I did, but I didn't want to stay out longer because there's the risk of getting undercut once you go that much longer, but there's a safety car risk still. And he goes, but I can't make those calls because you're in championship contention. The teams that make those calls know they're not really. They're just like,
it's a punt.
It's a punt. You're like, well, like, you stay out. That's why I was surprised Kai Allen pitted. Like, that brings it back to that even more because you're like, he's the one taking the punt and then he half-baked it. So it sort of doesn't make sense why he did that. But I think that for the smaller teams, the way it is at the moment is kind of cool because that's why it's good for the fans because you get to see a team that might not otherwise be there, throw the haymaker and land it and be up there at the end of the race. But then for teams like Triple Eight, Tickford, Walkinshaw that typically stay their strategy, they follow the best optimal strategy, they get unlucky, but I don't.
And that's why it kind of does work, I think, isn't it? Because as you say, those experienced teams are the ones with the fast cars. They're not going to run the risk of, ifs, buts, and maybes. They're going to go off the data and the facts and say what's the optimal strategy.
Split it in thirds. It's what you do.
Yeah,
Whereas some are like, I want to run a 50 and then do a 30 lapper and then 10 at the end. Or
zero risk. And I think with the way that safety cars fall lately, there's bugger all of them really. It's not a big enough thing to maybe change it, and it does give us one race or two races a year where maybe it throws a cat among the pigeons. Everyone goes, oh, that was unexpected. Cool.
What if, though, it changes the outcome of a big race, like a Bathurst? Because that's the one where, like, I get it, winning a race here and there or getting a podium doesn't really... But, like, you got Bathurst, which people have said is as life-changing as winning a championship, arguably more.
I think that's just... Again... two different views, but I think that's just motorsport, and sometimes you can't plan for do you know what I mean? Like sometimes, as you say, Bathurst picks, everyone says it picks you, right? Like sometimes those big events, either the Lady Luck's on your side or she's not, and that's probably what adds to why it makes it so hard to win events like that, and you grind out all day and then something stupid like that can happen.
Yep.
And it just completely...
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I to be honest, I don't have an opinion. I probably think it's a good thing. I'm leaning more towards it's better for the fans and for the sport to have these variables, but I do want to hear from everyone else, and just because it's a fun convo. Like I started talking about it to everyone on Sunday night. Like, what do you think? What do you reckon? Like, just because it's like, I don't know there's a perfect answer either.
Yeah. No, and I don't, So I think, it's like going back to Sandown last year. We thought one thing because we're like, oh, work for you guys, great, it's a great thing. And then you go, well, hang on, for everyone else, the fans at home watching, was it a good? So I think there's always multiple views of it.
Yeah,
but
and motorsport's fake as well. Like you've got teams with bigger budgets and teams with smaller budgets. So the results are, you know what I mean though? Like,
yeah, I get what you're saying.
So to say like, oh, that's fake racing. Well, hang on a minute. So's having a billionaire team owner and then a guy who's just scraping together to run a single car team. You know what I mean? So if a single car team has a little bit of luck sometimes and it brings them into the race, great. Because that's just as unfair or just as, fabricated as having less money. Yeah,
you correct. Or, the best people or whatever, best cars. So, I think every sport or every story needs those feel-good moments. And the weekend was a perfect example of it. I don't think I'd be surprised if there was a person that had the shits that BRT ended up on the podium.
No, exactly. 100%.
I think every fan would be like, good on them.
Yep.
They deserve, they've been grinding away. That's cool.
You'd put in here as well that for the East Coast viewers, TV times are no good.
Oh, I just thought, because I watched on home. You were there
Saturday I watched at home, yep.
Yeah, Saturday you watched at home. I just thought the times were really inconvenient. Like it was 1, 3 and 5, I think it was. So quali or practice qual or whatever it worked out. It was just odd times. I thought, when it was the night race, it would have been later.
Yeah.
So I would have had the whole day to do what I wanted to do. And then at 7 o'clock, I could have sat down and started watching the racing, which to me, I think selfishly would have been better.
Yep.
So that was just one thing. My opinion on the pre-brief was I preferred it when it was the night race on Saturday. And then on the weekend, I was like, well, if this was that, the timing would be later in the day and it wouldn't be sort of in the middle, an awkward time in my day, and it would be perfect.
Yep.
So that was another reason I just thought I'd throw that in when they're considering it. That was one thing that I did notice. It was better when it was later.
Yep.
It's a bit like watching the footy at night. You can go have dinner, watch it at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's better than watching a 5 p.m. game.
Yeah,
it's kind of in between.
I know what you mean.
What you're doing.
Yep, I agree. I thought it was great that we got a sit-down interview with James Warburton ahead of schedule, really. But I thought the interview was a disaster. I think we got, Jess Yates asked, 8 questions and got 8 answers. But I think it would be great to have more of a conversation and really pick the guy's brain about, you've been out of the sport for a little while, you've been spectating. What are some of the things you'd like to change, and discuss those things a little bit more? The championship schedule is one of those that I think is really important right now. He actually said we'll always be 14 rounds, 2 in New Zealand and 12 here in Australia, because I'm guessing that's their plan next year with 14.
Yeah.
I would have immediately said, why are we saying we will always be 14? Because I went into the garage and worked out with one of the mechanics. They're on the road for roughly 76 days of the year. 38 race calendar or whatever it is from NASCAR, 72 days we think they're on the road, just a guess. So clearly we've got scheduling issues with the amount of days on the road to do 14 events, and we're actually doing a very similar amount of races, 36 or whatever it is. We've added, for whatever reason, another race to the Adelaide 500. But I think that interview, it was a shame. I mean, I'd love to get, this is a call out, like to get James Warburton to join us at the bar and have a conversation about what the plan is with the sport, how we are going to change it. I get the international stuff's fantastic, but I think we need to fix the backyard first and reduce costs to go racing more. We've increased co-driver laps. This is one personally, but we've reduced testing, so I get no miles. We know how expensive it is to race support categories. So it's difficult to get miles, but then to increase co-driver laps was great. They listened to the fans, but then they screwed the schedule up and eliminated testing because to bring in more racing miles, they have to do that. That's part of the charter agreement. But the days on the road is too much. So there's a few questions I would have loved answered, or at least, some conversation with the guy for 10 minutes. I know it was a short interview. Or wait till there's more time to do. I think you said today, like a great half-hour feature with him would be great, to sit down and genuinely have a chat with him about what's happening with the sport. Yeah,
I would have liked to have seen in a bigger piece, because he hasn't officially started yet. So if you're going to go down that road, I would have gone not at the track, not in uniform, because he hasn't started yet, and then had like a feature on it and it delved into a bit of everything. Who is the guy? Because not everyone there'll be fans that don't remember him from last time. And just a piece on him as a person, and then what's his plans, how, that sort of stuff. So people go, okay, I know him before he starts. This is great. That's what I would have done. Because I'm with you. I just thought it was a bit of a nothing.
The interview should have been a third party interviewing him, whoever that is.
I didn't get a lot out of it.
Nothing. Yeah.
So nothing that I couldn't have read in the last week or two.
ChatGPT could have answered the same questions in the same way.
For me, it was kind of like, well, he's not there yet officially. We got nothing from it. I'd just rather that time have been spent on, well, who is he then? So I get to know him a bit better.
Yeah.
If I'm not going to get anything useful.
Well, yeah, I think you can get something useful though. It's just like, not the answers that are already online.
Yeah.
And I think from everyone I asked, and I asked Jamie, and he's very excited. He thinks he did a really good job when he was back in. So I think there's a really positive. I think a lot needs to change, and the amount of time on the road for the crew is really tough because it's tough. I spoke to a couple of the smaller teams, and they are struggling with staffing because, can't afford to pay everyone a substantial amount more than the real world. You almost paid less in racing. And you're on the road so much, it's pretty hard to get someone experienced that's at an older age to go away from family and things for 76 days to do just 14 events. It's going to be more next year. It'll be more than 76.
Do you reckon, well, this could take us on a tangent here, but do you reckon, because NASCAR have their different crews, if they went to the short 2-day events here in Australia with supercars, you could almost have a small crew that are full-time prepping the car and then have your contractors almost to run the race weekends potentially. Do you think that model would work or not?
I don't think it's necessary. I think the category should outsource more of, setting up the garages. That should be a contractor's job. Putting up pit booms, contractor's job. We don't even need them anymore actually, so that's easy. The rattle guns, take that out of the teams completely and give it to one supplier. Cuts the cost. There's no R&D in developing new guns or anything like that. All of that should be third parties that deliver the gas bottles. You know what I mean? Everything, I think, in that regard could be set up, ready to roll.
So they roll in.
Flooring's laid. You roll in. Every team has their pit walling that's branded, and the truck arrives. They push a toolbox and a car out. No practice. It's quality in races. We don't need if we're racing more regularly, you don't need to rock up and do practice to get our eye in. The drivers probably need to get their eye in now because we only race every 4 weeks. But if you changed all that, 2-day events, I mean, the one at the Adelaide 500, I love, that is my favourite event. I'm from Adelaide, so I'm very biased. But I think they've made a mistake by adding a 100K event on Friday. My opinion is that should be, if we're going to do this championship thing and really make it high jeopardy, that should be a one-race format Sunday. Who would go to the AFL Grand Final for 4 days straight? I think, and AFL is more popular than supercars, but I think people would struggle to stay hyped up for a 4-day event. And especially because you've added another race now, it's likely that if someone's fast that weekend, they could win the first 2 races and then just cruise on Sunday and finish 10th or whatever, have a points buffer. Yeah. So then what's the point of the final system? It's not a grand final.
It needs to be a one race, that 4, whoever best man wins.
If we're off the mark, come and tell us, because I'm only a... No, but and that's the thing. No. Come and have the conversation, because I'm sure there's people sitting at home that might have ideas and be wrong, but we just are wrong because we're not enlightened. Like, that's the part of sitting down and watching that interview with him. I wanted to learn a little bit more. But anyway, we've made some change, added the top 15 graphic as well to the coverage we saw. They're talking about the bubble a lot more, which is fantastic. So a lot of good. There are a lot of good things happening. Frosty joined the coverage as well. I think he did a good job. Probably, I feel like the coverage just lacks that, like, hard talker, but I think everyone on there did. I think Garth and Frosty were really good. I still think Scaife or Crompton, either or. I think just one of them and then have a broadcast. I thought all the coverage was pretty good. There was a few people that complained I saw about the delay in replays, taking too long to get a replay on something, and then also cutting to a replay when action was happening.
I saw a few things that, there's a little bit of clunkiness there. Again, like they weren't watching what happened. Then later on, they talked about something that they'd already seen. And if you'd seen it originally, like, oh, fuck, I already know about this. So let's go back to it. But I get how that happens and whatever, that's
part of it.
That's part of it. Yeah, it's hard. They're trying to look at a million different things at once, so I get it. But
who remembered? Let's go into that, I reckon.
Well, an easy one is JC. I'll give BRT their flowers. So I'll go that. Who you got?
Well, I had JC.
Did you? Sorry, no.
I can't really pick that now, can I?
Well, you can. We can agree every now and again. It's fine.
No, I just loved arguing, okay? No, but yeah, all right, JC. Who forgot? You can go first because I'm still really struggling with this one.
Yeah. I had someone before and now I've forgotten. Well, I'll say Andre. I'm going to say, I know he had a shit Tassie as well, so he kind of forgot back-to-back.
He's having real memory dramas.
To me, that's just very out of character. I think I rate him a lot higher than what his results have been the last couple of rounds, so I'll say Andre, yeah.
I'm probably leaning towards Davo.
Will?
Podiumed at Taupo and then Tassie in here. Maybe Davo. But... yeah, I've just struggled because I don't think the results were that different between Tasmania and...
Yeah. No, it was a tough one. We sort of talked about pre-show. Someone's thrown in our comments, Flynn Johnson, thoughts on Lockie Dalton. So, yeah, obviously Lockie was a wild card with Tickford. I actually thought he did a good job. I thought Perth was a hard place to go and do a wild card at because it's a short lap.
Yeah, one little mistake, you're nowhere.
The main guys that are in it every day are so bloody good. Very few mistakes they're going to make. So I thought that was a really brave place to go and do it. If it was me, I would have picked somewhere else. I actually did well. I thought there were times where he wasn't far off Randall and I thought he looked like he did a really good job. So well done, Lockie, on that, mate. Didn't see him crash or do anything too stupid. He went into the sand once, but big deal. He was having a crack. Good on him. So, yeah, no, I thought Lockie did a great job.
Yep. Yeah, I think he did a good job. I was surprised through practice that he was straight up there as quickly as he was. Qualifying is just really, really, really hard. And in the races, I think he qualified 16th in one of them. I actually made an honourable mention, a note in here for him. Anyway, yeah, Lockie Dalton, P18, I think is a decent result because it sounds like it's not, but I can tell you everyone's so good that...
especially there.
It's, like when you look at, you got Will Davo qualifying out of the 20. We had, Brody Kosecki outside the 20, his past champion. It's not hard, not easy to be 18th. And he did a solid job and he didn't
do anything stupid.
And which is one of the most, that's rule number one, when you start your weekend, what's the first thing you want to do?
Did all his laps.
Yep.
Did all his laps. And in the races, he was... because obviously when you qualify in that pack, it's...
He did. Sorry, saw Flynn Johnson. He did almost roll a bloody thing in practice when he locked the front.
No, he was a bit unlucky with it.
I couldn't believe that when it hit the gravel trap and just tipped off on its side.
Yeah, because it's the sand there.
Yeah.
He was lucky it didn't go down. I think even he said, surely this isn't going to happen. Could
you imagine?
Oh. But, yeah, where he was in the battle packs, it's intense. And he raced hard and, as I said, kept the front on it. And so, well done, mate. I thought it was good.
Yep. Brilliant. All right. I might, everyone's probably tired of hearing our voices here. We might split this into two. I'll just crack on. I'm due another sound check. So this is a great time to wrap this one up. Take a P15S and back for episode 57 to do the fan memos because we had a few come in from Saturday and Sunday. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. We'd love to hear from you. So drop your comments below. Anything that we missed or got wrong, don't be afraid to tell us and we'll address it in the next podcast. It happens quite a lot.
I'm pretty sure all the hunters out there are pretty used to telling us that we've stuffed something up. So
yeah, but it's been a fun night chatting with everyone. Hope you enjoyed the pod. Or follow our socials too. Anyway, on to the next one. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.